Midwest, home sweet home in good old Indiana. Place of small towns, cozy families gather together, and fields of corn and rustic woods. But, like any town, there is a dark underbelly that often goes unnoted. We are part of that darkness. We lurk in the shadows to bring you the best in horror, metal, and stories of the grotesque. This is Blood in the Cornfields.
All right, welcome in, fellow cellar dwellers.
Hey!
Hi.
Yes, we have a guest with us today.
Yes, we do. We are feeling very guesty. We've been very guesty.
We have. We've had a lot of guests. We had Earl last week, and then we had Jeff and CJ, and now we got our good friend, Ben, here with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
Welcome.
Thank you.
Fun fact about Ben, he did our intro music.
There you go, yes.
Hey.
And I found that out just moments ago. And I was like, okay, awesome, thanks.
Yeah, no, we really liked your intro music, and not to mention everybody has been complimenting us on it. And it's like, hey, no compliments to us, it's all to Ben.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I had
that's
so
great
much
to hear.
fun. I think the visuals go along with it great. Like, I had so much fun doing that.
Oh, that was fun recording that.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, what do we have new for horror news?
So the only thing I really saw was there's a picture been going around that I found very interesting. It's for a supposed Freddy TV series called Fred, where the actor DJ Qualls is supposedly supposed to play Freddy, and it's supposed to be directed by Rob Zombie.
That's weird.
Now, I believe it is all horseshit because it was actually featured on, I believe, a Facebook and Instagram of someone who has admittedly said that they make this shit up. So don't fall for it. Yeah, it's...
Well, when you first described it, it sounded like it was going to be like some sort of AI shit that was made up. Like we had that whole weird like Willy Wonka fiasco with the AI scripts and shit. So I'm like, is that what this is?
You never know nowadays with AI. It's like I don't put anything past anyone anymore. So who knows? But no, I believe it is false. I just remembered what I was gonna talk about.
Yeah.
I recently watched Dark Harvest.
Did you?
Yes. We'd not
Okay.
talked about it or anything, so I was like, hey, I'm just gonna on the fly watch
Yeah,
this.
how
I was
was
doing
it?
some stuff around home. Not terrible. Interesting storyline. 6.5 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, kind of a clever story. Interesting. So, yeah, I would say it's worth a watch. I would recommend a little watch. It's on Amazon, so y'all can watch it, and I believe it is like brand spanking new.
Is it, so that's the one that you had talked about with, is it the masked dude?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so the people in the movie, so it's kind of like when I put these three together, it's going to sound like a kick-ass movie.
Okay,
and it's
yeah.
not as good as these three.
Oh, no.
But it's kind of Children of the Corny.
Uh-oh.
It's
Okay.
kind of Pumpkinhead-ish, and it's kind of The Purge.
Interesting.
Yes.
And I see here just kind of IMDbing it. It looks like it takes place in the Midwest.
Yes,
so
it does.
Who
It very
would have
much-
known?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's very much has the corn is definitely involved.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's kind of a clever little story. I lost a little bit of interest, I'll admit, towards the end. So I don't have 100% details on what exactly happened. There's there's two brothers and then obviously a dad and stuff. And there's some stuff that happens between them. I get the gist of it, but I was folding laundry. I'm going on a vacation like in 2 days. So, I just,
So,
kinda
like,
lost.
just looking at the IMDb page, too, it looks like that the director was the director of Hard Candy, which is actually a really
I
good
love
film.
that movie. Hard Candy was a really good movie.
I bought it before seeing it, and that might have been a mistake because it doesn't have a lot of rewatch value for me.
Not
but
really, no.
Once you understand the twist.
Yeah.
But not bad. Like I said, I mean, I'll stick with my 6.5. 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah. Looks like he also, with that an account, he also did 30 Days of
Which
Night.
is another great movie.
He directed the Twilight Saga Eclipse, so the second movie.
Yes.
Hey, you gotta have some stinkers under your
Yeah,
belt
you
for
really
directing
do.
movies.
You make one for them, one for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you
that's
go.
right.
Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't that bad. So it's so bad that I'm so pessimistic. Like, because I am true 80s and 90s horror to the max. And when all these new movies come out, I expect them to be absolute shit. And
Yeah.
most of the time they are. But this one, not too bad.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I definitely want to give it a watch. I'll give it a try. I know on IMDb it says it has like a 5.5, 5.6 rating, and it's like, what? You know what? It's a horror movie. Let it be. You know, let it slide.
Yeah, but all the kids wear masks, and they have the Misfits Crimson Ghost mask.
Oh, seriously?
Which I thought was really interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I like that. So as far as like as far as new news for like me on my end, I got quite a bit.
Awesome.
But we had talked about a little bit about Maxine will be coming out soon.
Yes.
I believe I did hear that it was going to be in July that it was finally going to drop. So that is super exciting. Can't wait to see that and to see what Maxine gets into. You mentioned that you saw a particular actress in that image.
Halsey is in the movie, and I did not know about that. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but I'm totally excited for that. That's going to be a theater movie for me.
Nice. And then we were talking about AI because AI has been sweeping everything now.
Just everywhere.
I don't know. Since this is actually, just to kind of give you guys some context, this is going to be a metal-centric episode.
Yes.
So in metal news, the band Pestilence unveiled their new album recently. And it is all AI art generated, and it has had so much backlash from so many people in the metal community.
Think it looks decent. I don't think it looks bad.
Like, okay, here's the thing about, AI art. I think it's okay to an extent, but also I agree with a lot of like our artist friends because we have a lot of artist friends that we collaborate with.
Some of us folks are poor though. Some of us folks are poor.
I mean, you need
I understand.
Anyone who bought Adobe is probably feeling threatened now.
Yeah.
All that visual design software.
Your graphics design degree doesn't mean anything.
I'm going to defend the artist out there. Like, I am so on the fence about AI art. Like, I love the things that it's able to come up with, but also at the same time, it's AI generated. It's coming from somewhere else. It's not just coming out of thin air.
Yeah.
It's coming from other artists that are having some of their designs stolen.
Yeah.
Not to mention, it does put a lot of other physical artists out of work.
I totally understand. And I come from a family of artists. My father was a painter his entire life. My brother's into art. I'm a musician. So, like, I totally understand art. And I would always go with a artist, local artist or something like that. But, like, I do know that, like, man, I also could see the turn where, like, I know what it takes to... And I have no idea with these guys. I'm just making assumptions. Yeah. I know what it takes to produce an album by yourself. I know what it takes to create an album by yourself. And when you're on a budget, there ain't shit left over. Like, there's not. And, maybe if they cut a little corners and did AI, like, I think... To me, I kind of would have to look at it, circumstance.
And it seems like that this particular band, I don't personally know them. They're not a death metal band that I listen to personally.
I've never even heard of them.
So I don't know enough about them, but it does seem like that they are on the bigger side of things. I don't know how much bigger. Yeah. But if they were getting reported by Forbes, they must be some sort of big deal.
Yeah, because Forbes has never even sniffed me. It's never even looked my direction. So yes, I would say they probably are.
So speaking of local artists, we do have a couple things that will be coming up soon. Cauldron Productions. It is not metal, but it is goth.
Sure.
And they have performed a lot in the South Bend area. Cauldron Productions consists of the DJ Freeze Etch. He's an awesome guy.
There was 3 DJs, right?
Yeah, so there's multiple people that are actually going to be performing at this particular event that's going to be happening. It looks like there's going to be, let's see here. Sorry, Elijah, I'm going to pronounce the name of your band wrong. Hippogaglia?
I mean, come on. That's a hard
I'm
name
sorry,
to say,
dude.
So.
That's a lot. And then also Unidad Obscura is also going to be there performing. We also have DJ Nagroth Weich and DJ Gomez as well that will be performing that day. And it's all at Lang Lab. Lang Lab has really been the key center for recent shows, especially in the alternative scene.
So is this just going to be a show, or is this going to be a festival? Is this going to be
It looks like it's going to be a full show. But they're also asking for vendors to be there.
Yeah, that's what threw me off, because I was like, what? I mean...
So we want to reach out to you guys and just say, hey, if you guys make art, you do awesome projects, you do jewelry, you have like a passion, an artistic passion that you want to share with others and get your name out there. They're looking for creepy and kind of obviously spooky vendors. Yeah. So if you happen to do anything like that and you want to get yourself out there, please go talk to Adam. He does a great job. That's Freezet, the DJ. That's his real name. Go talk to him. He's the one that's kind of heading this and putting it all together. So talk to him, see if there's anything he can do for y'all. But get your guys' art out there. We want to be able to support you guys. Hopefully we'll be there as well. I don't know. That's kind of looking a little fuzzy, but that'd be cool if we could join.
I'd just bring up a table and sit there.
Right?
I mean, I would just do that anyway. Hopefully they don't kick me out.
And then as far as other artists, I'm actually wearing their merch right now that y'all can't see. But a black metal band out of Akron, Ohio has been really kicking things off. Actually, he's a friend of a friend, Ian, who's in the band. He does a great job. He's vocals. I think he also does guitar as well, main guitar. But the band is called Vile Light. And they are amazing. They just released, I think, their first album or EP, and it's only got 4 songs on it, but goddamn, do they kick ass. He does a great job. So I highly recommend them. If you can actually go out to Akron, Ohio and support one of their shows, go for it. They're on Bandcamp, of course. Go support them. They do a great job, and they truly are a fantastic band.
So not to seem unprofessional, and I know I'm throwing this on you.
No.
But the podcast that you recommended to me with the guy from the UK.
Yeah, Tornado Production.
Yes, Black Tornado.
Black Tornado. Yep.
Okay, so they had a band called Her Worst Nightmare out of Chicago.
They were fucking good, weren't they?
They were really good, yes. So I would definitely shout them out. Mm-hmm. They are out of Chicago. I don't remember if they're having an album drop. I just sprung this on Ivy, so I've not even looked at it because it just came in mind. But go check them out. They may have an album coming out. It was either the first band they featured or the second that has an album coming out. Because I remember him saying, like, it's going to drop by the time this podcast hits. So it may be them. So definitely check them out. I'm a snob. Like, I will readily admit, and it's like, I'm sorry, local bands. Like, I'm not perfect, but, like, for some reason, I'm a little snooty. And like not snooty with them, they were really fucking good.
You like your metal of the classier.
I don't know.
Classier. Classy metal. What does that sound like?
I think is what it is. I'm just like, my attention, if you don't grab me from the beginning, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Okay, all right. And it's partially because, like, give me a break. I did work 8 years in a music venue, so I literally had bands playing every single night.
And that makes sense, you know?
Like, and I will readily admit, and I'm totally fine with people saying the exact same shit about bands I've been in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you just don't grab me right off the bat, I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
You should have a podcast eventually about opening tracks.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, that's how you get into an album.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean,
that's actually a good idea.
Live. Like if I'm watching you live and you haven't pulled me within the first 45 seconds, at least keep me being like, oh, okay, to like stay more. My attention's done. Like I give a band 45 seconds, and like again, I know that's dickish. That's just, I guess I'm naturally a dick. Like, it's just how I am.
And I know I got a minor critique about Violet's first album. Sorry, Ian. I just got to say it. The first 2 are definitely, they're more of the same, but it gets a little bit to get into that album. Once you hit that 3rd song, though, good.
Is it just the structure that they had? Like they should have started with song 3 as song 1 and then blended 1 or like 1 and 2 in the middle? It makes
sense for the way that they did it because they have like a short song at the very beginning. It's kind of like an intro, to kind of give you a taste of what they're about. The second song leads into, so the first song leads into the second song.
So it like bleeds in off the intro?
Yeah. You know, it does that long, and then it goes into it.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah, I get what they're building
they designed
up.
It that way.
Yeah, they build it up, but for some reason, the 2 songs, they just sound too much the same. You know what I mean? Like, if I were to listen to them back to back, I wouldn't know that they were a different song.
Okay.
But once it hits that 3rd and 4th song, Awesome. Stellar. Love it a lot.
That's all right.
The third one's my favorite. But
That's one of the hardest things in my opinion, making an album is just like album structure. What song do we place where? What song do we want to release? Like I don't make those decisions.
absolutely.
I'm so indecisive. I'm just like, whatever. Like, whatever you guys want, fucking I don't care.
So we did take a poll on our Instagram about what did y'all think about
that damn Pete Davidson being the Crow.
Yeah. He's not, of course, but goddamn, Bill Skarsgård and his tattooiness is interesting. And we did get a couple comments that we'd like to share.
Sweet.
So who is actually going to portray?
Bill Skarsgård.
Okay.
And I'll show, actually, let me show
the reason they put Pete Davidson is because he has a lot of patchy, just splotchy, shitty tattoos. And Bill Skarsgård, as the Crow, has real shitty, splotchy.
Okay, because Pete Davidson is gradually getting them lasered off so he can be taken more seriously as an actor.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he had the Ariana Grande bunny on his neck, and he got that either a cover up or lasered off. Okay. Yeah.
So Ben, for context, this is what we're looking at.
That's why they kind of put that. Yeah, it's getting bashed on the internet.
Oh
hardcore.
My god, it is.
It's bad.
Look. I know we brought this up in the last episode, but the eye nipple though.
Wow.
And I read something about the eye nipple. There's some meme going around.
Yeah.
They talk about the eye nipple because I was like, well, we talked about the eye nipple.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one that noticed. So here's the comments that we got from a couple people. My good friend Helen actually talks about the eye nipple and goes, one of the tattoos is a face with his nipple as an eye, so I'm on board.
All right. Okay, all right.
I mean, to each his own. I think that's hilarious. And then, of course, another friend of ours, Joel, who does the designs for, art. He's an artist. He would know. Hate it. And
pretty self-explanatory.
Another friend of ours, Xavier, had this pretty funny comment to say.
Oh, I want to hear it coming from him, too, because he's the Crow fan.
Yes. Oh, my God. He's got a stellar Crow collection, too. There was an awesome picture of a crow actually landing on Brandon Lee's grave recently when we all kind of shared that around. And Xavier says, oh my God, the Brandon Lee is going to come back. The Brandon Lee is going to come back as a crow to get revenge on Bill Skarsgård for ruining this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a sign. If that's not a sign, that's a sign.
Hey, spooky parents. We want to help promote an awesome alternative clothing brand from the Midwest made just for you ghouls. It's Feral Mama. The brand was started by Gretchen, a mother of 4 living in Cleveland, Ohio, who is a trained doula and has a passion for supporting motherhood and other mothers who are struggling with mental illness, postpartum depression, and mothers who are struggling to find a support group for other alternative mothers. Since she started her business, she has found an awesome community that has supported her through thick and thin. We support her on this mission as parents ourselves. Feral Mama has lots of comfy t-shirts with spooky designs for mostly mamas, but also some unisex options are available for any of you papas or caregivers out there. She also sells kids shirts from time to time, as well as hoodies, crew neck, long sleeve shirts, patches, pins, mugs, and some other really cute bags. You can use my code OscureIvy to get 10% off your first order using the link in the description on our Instagram or even on our YouTube, feralmamashop.com/OscureIvy. That's feralmamashop.com/OscureIvy. By supporting her, you will also be helping us continue to do what we do. It can take anywhere between 14 to 21 business days to receive your order, but remember, she is only one person. So go support your local Feral Mama today. Remember to support small businesses, women, and of course, badass mamas everywhere.
So, with all that being said, we should probably get into
the metal.
There we go. All right. So, metal. Where did it come from? Where has it gone? Where is it going? Cotton Eye Joe.
I was just going to say, are we doing Cotton Eye Joe here or what?
But metal, it depends on how far back you really want to take this.
It's one of those things that, you can just go, from influence to influence to influence. Mm-hmm. And it can be traced back to, probably the beginning.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when I think about this, and you might actually have more to add to this, wasn't there back in the day it was called the Devil's Chord or something like that? It was like 3 notes or 2 notes that just had this
That
dark
summoned Satan.
Yeah, well, a lot of people thought so. That's pretty fucking metal. But like this particular Devil's Chord was used in a lot of early music. It just gave this sense of foreboding. It was just, I can't remember the exact chords to it, but it was like flat, and it just made this eerie noise. And it was used to kind of foreshadow something bad was going to happen, or especially if there was like an overture.
I could see that.
The devil's interval is diminished fifth, D5, or augmented fourth, A4. It just had intervals that sounded very different to people's ears.
Interesting.
So, and a lot of that I feel like you can hear it in some of and I'm sure Luke will put up like an example of the Devil's Chord or the Devil's Interval. But I feel like a lot of these bands eventually started using that, or at least giving that more foreboding sound. But, early metal could also trace back to the blues.
Yeah.
The blues was used heavily to influence like bands like especially Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Which was more, heavy blues. If you listen to that first album of theirs.
Yeah.
It's got that. There's one part where it's got full on harmonica and everything like that in it. It's pretty neat.
To me, that's where the discussion has to start. Like you can make other arguments and all that sort of stuff, but like the roots of it are the most heavily based, in my opinion, coming out of Black Sabbath. I almost said Black Flag.
Absolutely.
Black Sabbath.
But before then, we'll kind of take it even a little further, but not too far back. Yeah. A lot of the things that we saw that kind of influenced it was like Link Wray. Link Wray and the Raymen, he did a song called Rumble. It's completely instrumental, and it's from 1958. And it just has this kind of neat sound to it. It sounds like people are about ready to go to a gang war,
It sounds like if it hasn't been something out of a Tarantino soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just, the feeling of it just really carried on, and you can tell that it even influenced the Kinks.
Yeah.
Would you say, is surf rock anywhere in your history?
I don't have
that whammy bar he uses to make wow, 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 that definitely is preemptive or simultaneous with surf rock.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
It reminds me. Yeah, I was going to say Dick Dale used to play at the bar I worked at all the time, which I don't know if he's considered the godfather of surf, but he's got to be up there.
And that's actually a good point because, surf, that surf rock really influenced punk music, which a lot of metal comes from the punk scene.
It kind of bleeds into itself.
Which I would even say the Kinks is early punk, wouldn't you say?
They did something like Buddy Holly. He's not playing power chords. The Kinks just sounded different because they were across the whole neck of the guitar, and it was progressions that you might not have heard before if you're playing open chords.
It was definitely a heavy riff that they had to it.
But what I was going to say about Rumble by Link Wray is people wanted to ban it.
Really?
The electric guitar, people wanted that off the radio.
Interesting.
Why was that? Is just because of
the electrification, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's going to be a common theme with a lot of this shit.
No kidding. Because there's something about different music that rattles people's...
Especially heavy metal.
Rattle
it's
up,
just,
It's from Satan.
Don't even get me started.
And then, of course, we saw bands like Led Zeppelin, especially when they released their song Communication Breakdown in 1969. That particular song is so heavy, and they ramp up the screaming in it. The kind of, I don't want to say screaming, I don't know how to describe it, but it's that high vocal.
He's got a wail to his voice
he does.
that he has,
It sounds like a scream, but there's so much control over it.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe it in words. You see that kind of, I guess, that kind of scream in hair metal later on. You know what I mean? It gets a little high, and it almost seems like that kind of really impacted a lot of people with Led Zeppelin, and then especially the song also "A Whole Lot of Love," which I think came out a little bit later on.
Which is one of their most famous ones. Yeah.
And it's just like, when he goes high, you me fool.
Yeah.
Like, it just, so good.
Yeah.
I love it. And then, of course, you also have Jimi Hendrix in 1967 with Purple Haze. Fucking legend. I do not care what anybody says, but he basically is a rock god.
He's a lefty, so he's fucking cool in my book.
Yeah.
Lefty, man.
He deconstructed the way you play guitar because he would leave notes out of chords to make them sound more distinct. And even in the same song, a certain phrase, he never plays it the same way twice.
Yeah.
Like from verse to verse, it might be completely different.
That's incredible. Yeah, I like Jimi Hendrix. I was kind of late into the game of knowing who he was because, of course, as I'm growing up in my metal experience, everybody has a different metal experience, but as I'm growing up in my experience, that wasn't really played at our house a lot. Dad wasn't really big into it, but it was all like the 80s hair metal stuff that we'll eventually get into. But it's incredible just hearing what he did and what he's and the impact he's left on just rock and metal in general.
And in the amount of time he did it.
Yeah, he died very young.
Yes,
27.
Yep.
And that's incredible for a young artist. Like, how is that even
not many albums. He had under 3, didn't he?
Studio. I mean, there are all these greatest hits collections that get people in, but
Yeah.
So then, of course, the beginning of metal, we start with Black Sabbath. Their first album shook the whole landscape of rock and just all that, all combined. I don't know how to describe it. It just... nuts. That first album also kind of gives me like doom metal vibes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they took it doom and dark. They were the first band to really, in my mind, to kind of do that. And just the type of music that they had was like, fairly drudgy. But doomy, is right on the nose. And Ozzy's vocals definitely like helped it. Because that's the one thing, too, that a lot of these influential bands in this genre had very distinct vocalists, whether it was through their rhythmic patterns of singing, whether it was through their vocal tones or how they sang, but there's a lot of very distinct vocalists on this list.
Yeah, and especially the guitar playing, where Tony had lost the tip of, wasn't it his middle finger and his ring finger in an accident, in like a metal accident?
I believe.
And metal accident, because he was working like with metal at the time. And he had to have, I can't remember if he put like little metal pieces at the top of it. He kind of welded them together so he could play. And that opening kind of part that you hear in Iron Man, that kind of helped with that kind of freaky sound that just, it's otherworldly, you know what I mean? And he lost that dexterity in his fingers, but he made it work. He made a new sound out of it, out of his disability.
No, what's sad is there's a generation that probably just knows Ozzy from the Osbournes.
Yeah.
His vocal attack was something else.
Oh, absolutely. And the funny thing about it is Black Sabbath, just the name in general.
Yeah.
Evokes scary
like
cult
dark,
satanic shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's so funny. But also, they really became an influence for anti-war anthems.
Yeah.
You have War Pigs that really is such a powerful song. It's long too. Yeah. But it's so powerful. It really just kind of is heavy. It is heavy-handed in its message, but it's wonderful. And a lot of this stemmed from like the Vietnam War at the time in the 1970s. And it really took a toll on a lot of people, not just the people in the war, the veterans, but also all the people that were watching, having to watch them, not knowing exactly what was going on until like other reports came out basically saying, no, there's a lot of people dying out there.
Yeah.
Sorry. But, the nice thing about Black Sabbath, too, is, like, those first couple chords alone of almost like their most recognizable songs like Iron Man, Paranoid, Black Sabbath, War Pigs.
Yeah.
Unmistakable.
Yeah.
You would know them in like the first couple seconds that song played.
Yeah.
You know, they're just so iconic. The neat thing though is that a lot of bands were very much influenced by Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath just set the record for metal as we know it. Like I said,
I mean, they're
it's
the
crazy.
godfathers, in my opinion. It starts with them.
A lot of the first, but the thing is that they were from Europe, like they were from the UK.
Yeah.
And a lot of these bands were from the UK, except for the very first technically considered heavy metal band was called Sir Lord Baltimore from Brooklyn.
Never even heard of them.
Interesting
Never
band.
even heard of them.
They sound more like Led Zeppelin, to be honest. They really do. They have more of a Led Zeppelin sound to them. The second album, though, you can tell, which was in 1971, right after Black Sabbath released their first album, Black Sabbath. Their second album, Sir Lord Baltimore, sounds just like a fucking Black Sabbath album. Like, they changed their tunes so quick. They're like, what's this?
Yeah.
I want to copy that.
Yeah.
Let me copy your homework. The other thing is, too, though, another band kind of came out around this time that was also technically considered heavy metal was Blue Cheer, and I don't know enough about them.
I have no idea.
I have no idea about them. But the first song in history to ever get the heavy metal title was technically Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, all right.
I think that's so odd. Like, what about that is metal? Yes, it's got the biker theme that you would later see in Motorhead, you know, and kind of Judas Priest. But it's like, that's an odd thing to say that was like the original, like, heavy metal.
I think the mainstream has always just struggled to grasp, to understand metal. And, you know, the classic case of Jethro Tull beating out Metallica for Album of the Year.
Right, yeah.
I think the mainstream has just never really quite understood what really is metal. And even, I mean, I see where it still struggles to today, you know, with really grasping what it really is.
You know, that draws a parallel to horror movies because they generally aren't considered for any awards, regardless of their craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
The mainstream doesn't know metal, really.
No, that's so true. And especially, because we always talk about how horror and metal kind of blend together. That's definitely a good point to bring up.
Oh, it definitely is.
And you have a new video, Hellraiser, which is presumably from the movie.
Yeah, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. I already have another song in there as well. Hell on Earth. So it speaks for itself.
It's another thing you have in common with the Ramones, of course, Pet Sematary, the Stephen King connection.
I don't want to be.
Hell is life.
I love that song.
Oh, thanks, man.
When it comes on at the end, she just like stabbed him in the gut.
Yeah.
And then there's Joey, you know, it's wonderful stuff, right?
Yeah.
And of course, we would know later on Black Sabbath would eventually change hands as far as the singer. It'd eventually be Dio from Rainbow. Long live. Yes. Long live Dio. So I always thought that was kind of cool. Rainbow is just a fun band. Like, it's unmistakable when it's Dio singing.
Yeah.
And then it changes hands later on and it's like, oh, this is an older Rainbow song.
Yeah.
Or this is old. And likewise, you could say the same for Black Sabbath when Dio took over. It's like, oh, this is an older Black Sabbath song. Still good.
Yeah.
Still amazing. But then later on, more bands that were influenced by Black Sabbath were ones like Iron Butterfly, Deep Purple, The Doors, and The Who. Definitely influenced by them, for sure. But they had their own sound for the most part.
Yeah, they did.
And I feel like Iron Butterfly... Goddamn, Indigada Devita?
That's what they're known for.
That is the fucking longest song I've ever heard in my life. And you would eventually hear and see more songs in metal that will become lengthy.
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like Iron Maiden took Iron Butterfly to the next level and was like, stand back, listen to this shit. I got Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though, with the Beatles and the Who, you've referred to some of their heavier music as both influenced and influenced. Both of them had careers that spanned
Decades.
decades. Would they have come to the new sounds without another genre out there, or would they have organically gotten more experimental? Or there's a lot of cross pollination, probably.
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah, and then who influenced who? Like who made who?
Right.
So, and I know through me, I directly would listen to drummers and be like, oh shit, I've never heard that technique, because obviously when I was playing music, like internet was dial up and shit.
Yeah, right.
So I'd be like, oh shit, let me incorporate that. Or I would hear someone else's style on like how they play the hi-hats, and I'm like, fuck, I never even thought of that. Let me incorporate that. So there definitely, for me, was a lot of cross-pollination and like different influences. And I just took like each thing that I really liked about all these other drummers and kind of like fucking molded it into my brain. And that's how I would perform as a drummer. So for me, like, absolutely, cross-pollination was how I existed as a drummer, for sure. I don't know about you with like, guitar playing and stuff like that, but that's literally how I taught myself how to play drums, is just grabbing and sucking influences from these other, percussionists and then just spitting it out in my style.
When I practice other people's songs is when I'm probably the most creative.
Yeah.
I hear something a little different that I could add, or...
Yeah.
That's neat, because I don't know how you guys do that as far as like creating new songs. To me, that is just beyond me. I'm like, I'm not that creative. I'm not that talented as far as music. I enjoy playing music, but it's almost like when you draw something, like I can copy it and I can do a decent job at copying it. But if you told me, hey, make your own original character, I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do, So that's incredible to what you guys do as a talent. Making new things, new music, my bad. But yeah, the 70s really kicked off the new wave of British heavy metal. And then that's where we got more bands. Judas Priest, like I mentioned, Motorhead and Iron Maiden, part of the big four to ever come out of the UK.
Yeah, those are some of the biggest, like, to me, this is next wave Godfather type stuff. I will fight like hell to throw Bad Brains in there. I know I told you that. They were started in 76. They're more punkish metal, but they had the fuck you attitude type stuff that a lot of metal today has. They were a big influence on me.
Bad Brains was also very, very progressive. They had their lead singer was African American.
The whole band was.
Oh, were they all?
The whole band.
Shit. So sorry. I knew that they were.
I don't. And now I'm all like, hey, I've listened to them for years, and let me make sure that not one of them was not.
Yeah. Well, you'd probably know more than me. I'm more new to kind of the punk.
Yeah, they all have been. They all are. Yeah. I was double checking.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to sound like an idiot.
So I'm sorry for my ignorance, but yes, they were all black individuals that were in that band.
Which, playing that type of music, like, that's not that scene. And even like, if I'm being honest with you, it's not been seen really much since then. Like, to me, the other big that's either primarily or all African American, in my opinion, is In Living Color.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So, I'm probably missing a bunch. And also,
you probably also have.
Idiot. Well, no, I didn't research that, but
but also like Black Flag as well. And then you also had Rage Against the Machine later on.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely paved the way so that way they could run. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's, like I've had other bands that they've had like a member or something like that, but I can't remember full band. Like I believe it was Zayo who has heavily influenced me when I was growing up. Like huge influence. Probably one of my top 5 bands that influenced me. Their guitar player for a certain period of time, I don't know if it was the whole time, but that was African American. But I can't remember just bands that same thing with like all chick bands. There's not as many of them,
right?
Especially in the metal avenue, but still, like, that was one thing that very much set them apart. And they had to deal with struggles, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
In the 70s, I'm sure there was a bunch of shit they had to go through.
And especially in the punk scene, we there was skinheads.
Yeah.
And absolutely. That's terrifying, and they still unfortunately exist.
Yeah, there was a whole genre of punk that was
just skinhead. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's terrifying to know that they were in that particular group of people, but also just exhilarating to know that they paved the way forward for everybody. So
that reminds me of Green Room, which is a badass movie.
Fuck, I love that movie. Guys, go check that out. It's a good
Green
movie.
Room is awesome.
So with the new wave of British heavy metal, we also, we talked about Judas Priest, which was very heavily blues based as well. The first album, Sin After Sin, they're experimenting, and I really like it. I love these leather daddies so much. Rod Halford, he's my favorite.
Oh man, yes.
They really paved the way also for like kind of the metal look, the metal style, the way that you wore the leather, you wore the baggy clothes, you got the spikes in there, that sort of thing. So I think that's really cool. They didn't really start sounding like themselves until like Screaming for Vengeance, in my opinion, but that's because that's my favorite album by Judas Priest. And then, of course, British Steel was another very big album for them. Another one is Motorhead, which technically is more on the punk rock side of things, but he would be considered a metal trailblazer as well.
I mean, it doesn't get much bigger. It doesn't get much bigger than those bands. Like I mean, what you can't even say anything about Motorhead. I was fortunate enough to kind of hear them live.
That's so cool.
When they say they were the loudest band, yes, they were the loudest band ever.
I believe it. And the fact is that like Lemmy literally is the godfather of speed and thrash metal.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, absolutely.
You could hear it, even though. I'm sorry, Lemmy. I bash Motorhead because all their songs sound the same to me. Like it just starts out, Ace of Spades, Ace of Spades. And then the next thing is, do-do-do-do-do. And I'm just like, it's the same thing. Do something else.
You like to gamble, I tell you how you land. You win some, lose some, it's all the same to me. Only way to feel the noise is when it's good and loud. So good, I can't believe it.
I love you, Lemmy, though. You're a great guy. He honestly really was. I love the fact that he was a roadie for Jimi Hendrix at one time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm sure he picked up some shit from him.
And even till when he died, he had a shitty little rundown apartment. I think it was in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. Until the day he died, he had just a shitty apartment.
And did
not live lavishly.
The cool thing about Lemmy too, he was just such a down to earth kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, he had his struggles with alcohol and drugs. What rock star doesn't, But
Newsboys, probably.
There you go. Yeah,
I could see those boys doing cocaine.
Okay.
just snorting it off strippers backstage.
Oh man, I don't know if they'd do it that way, but yeah. But there was this interview that I remember seeing Lemmy in. It was a interview back in the 80s. It was like a whole documentary about metal music. Luke will help me out with this, and we'll probably put the actual movie up on the screen. We watched it, but they were interviewing other metal bands that were big at the time in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Like they were interviewing Ozzy Osbourne. They were interviewing the dudes from Poison. They were they were interviewing like a couple other glam metal bands, And the thing is about like you looked at people like Ozzy that was interviewed and Lemmy, they were just so down to earth and so kind and actually spoke with this kind of, even though Ozzy in his interview, he's literally making breakfast as they're interviewing him.
About, yeah.
It is the cutest thing. And like Lemmy's just chilling with a beer in his hand. He's having a good time. He's just talking, and he's talking about how like metal is so impactful in his life and all this, and how it gives him like a sense of like belonging and meaning and this sort of thing. While all the other fucking idiots from like Poison and all these other glam metal bands are just talking about like, yeah, it's all about rock, love, sex, and the hookers and the babes, dude.
And the tour bus. And
yeah.
The fucking Look What the Cat Dragged In album cover confused me so much when I was a child. I was just like, what are these pretty men doing? Like, I was so confused. But to go back to Lemmy, so more like horror and metal kind of links is so Lemmy was the narrator on one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oh, really?
Romeo and Juliet.
Oh my God, that's
Yes.
right. He was.
He was the narrator.
Oh my
on
God,
that.
that's cool.
And it's like, trauma, so it's like, is it horror? Is it like trauma is a thing all of its own. So, but yes, Lemmy narrated that.
That's so cool. And like, he's just such a great guy because he discovered actually one of the first girl heavy metal bands. Girl School out of the UK.
Yes. Which they put a new album out in 2023.
That's crazy to me.
It's like they put a new one out.
They've literally been a band since 1977. Technically, it switched members. The original band was called the Painted Ladies.
The Painted Ladies.
Yeah.
All right.
And then in 1980, they released their first album, Demolition, in 1980. And Lemmy actually gave them a shot and had them open for him.
That's awesome.
What an incredible dude. Like, I love him. He's such a nice guy. And, he's had his hardships, too. His first band was Hawkwind, which he literally got kicked out of.
Not surprised. Not surprised.
He literally got kicked out of his own band, and I think that's funny to him, for him. So let's go on to the next big daddy, the big four of metal, of early metal, was Iron Maiden. Fuck, I love them. Obviously, I love them. You just look around the studio, But they're incredible to the genre, I think. The riffs, beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Every album, something different, is like a different time period, which is very cool. I like that about them. And they literally were like the first band to I think one of the first bands to introduce a mascot, which was Eddie.
Yes.
We have Eddie as the face of metal, and I love that. It's so cool. But I don't know. There's just I don't know how else to describe Iron Maiden. I know on the last metal episode we talked about that was my favorite band. Like, literally, Number of the Beast is my favorite album.
Gotcha.
I know that just sounds so generic, so poser of me, but it's like, I like old school metal.
Yeah.
That's just where I gravitate towards.
I hear it. So what time period are we in? Because I have my boy that I want to make sure gets brought up, and I know you have written down. I know you have written down, but are we to that time period yet?
So we are in the 1980s as of right now, and we can go into whatever you want, because at this point, the 1980s just boomed.
Everything just spews out here.
Metal just became a thing.
But so my big thing, and of course I'm going to fight for him because I absolutely love the dude. Merciful Fate, King Diamond, started out in '84, like huge. Love King Diamond.
God, he's so cool.
He's so badass. My friend Mike used to, I think it was his phone or his computer, had a picture of King Diamond out of makeup, hairy chest open, leaning up against like an old Corvette or something.
That's
it was
so
the
cool.
sweetest shit ever.
God, he's so cool. Like, literally, and this is where there's so much overlap with the 80s and the 90s and everything, because literally, here's a genres that like popped up in metal. You had glam and hair metal. Say what you will. I just found out, I was this day years old when I found out glam metal actually stands for gay LA metal. I didn't know that.
There's a lot of it.
The Pretty Boys, the Motley Crue and Poison and all that shit.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And then the 80s also introduced thrash. So you have, bands that were very much influenced by more Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, like Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, blah, 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 all the other Exodus, Testament, name out another Bible name. I'm sure you have it.
Those are kind of the bread and butters. Those are the mainstays that, are the most popular. Obviously, if we were just bringing up obscure stuff, we would be taking forever.
Oh,
but
absolutely. And we might have another episode.
And then to me, this is also really, really, really where metal shifts gears and goes more mainstream.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
This is where I think metal kicked in the door of going mainstream.
Especially the Satanic Panic, y'all.
Yes, because now I think this is, to me, because this is where I grew up. Like, this is my age where I grew up, and I think it's so pivotal to bring and talk about this age because it's really where it started to go and bust down the door of mainstream, where really metal started to become a lot more popular.
Absolutely. And like even more sprung out of it. You had death metal that sprung out, doom metal. And then you also had black metal, which is where your kind of King Diamond, Merciful Fate kind of goes into play.
Yeah.
And really, the corpse paint for black metal really originated in Kiss and Alice Cooper through shock rock, you know?
Yep, absolutely. So, and a lot of that stuff too, if you're a metalhead, you know this. The best metal is not from the United States.
Oh, true.
Not even close. So, a lot of this, does have other foreign influences that we're not even touching on, that we're not even as familiar with. This is also around the time that one of my all-time favorite band, At the Gates, started, and they really, to me, just kicked down the door of just tempo metal and not blasting through shit, just completely just blasting through it, but just having. I just want to kick you in the dick tempo.
Right. Speaking of kick you in the dick, the 90s came around and the 90s introduced us to, let me hear y'all say it, angry white boy metal with new metal. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Somewhere in there, though, do you have 9 Inch Nails down?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
and
right.
that's the period, too, that I wanted to talk about, because that's the period where the mainstream happens and we have all these little spin-offs. You have 9 Inch Nails. You have Tool.
Faith No More.
Yeah, and you have all this little spin-off where I would put Primus in there as well, too.
And, really, Primus really kind of kicked down the doors for new metal to begin.
Yep.
Plus, also Ministry. Late Ministry, because early Ministry was goth.
And you got to throw, subtly typo in there. Typo negative, I think, kind of needs to be in there a little bit, because they have the dark. Yes.
So I'm rocking in my seat because it's I know.
The ladies loved the typo.
Well, okay,
the ladies
I love him.
the typo.
I literally have the one album where you can look at his dick. It's my favorite. Long something deep and long slow deep and hard, whatever.
I was never
it's
a typo
beautiful.
fan, but
it's my favorite.
But I do understand their importance.
I love Peter Steele's dick.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. But I also would consider typo negative technically goth as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of that genre-ish. The metal umbrella is very vast.
Oh, it is.
There's just all sorts of subgenres.
I can't believe 9 Inch Nails and these two are contemporaries, kind of.
Korn and Limp Bizkit. Yeah, I mean, the thing is with oh my god, new metal is just, it's almost become a joke in the metal community. But also at the same time, it's you secretly like it. Don't, even the people that are snobby and shit and oh, that's not metal. Bitch, you at least have one Linkin Park song or something by Faith No More or System of a Down that you like. So don't fuck with me.
I saw Korn right before COVID in Fort Wayne, and Breaking Benjamin opened up.
Oh.
And I would say half the people left after Breaking Benjamin.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
There's Korn's still going, and they still have a following, and I just to me, I would not know. No, I'm good.
Actually,
I'd rather stay at home and watch TV. Same thing with Limp Bizkit. Hey, cool, if you want to go watch them, cool. I'm not a novelty piece guy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go see a novelty act. No, because maybe I pay attention to musicians a little bit too much, but the novelty piece shit, nah. Yeah, you can fuck off. I'm good.
Well, that kind of brings us to our time.
Yeah, and for me, so there's another genre that kind of spits out of this and really goes to where a lot of metal is now, and it's the melodic metal stuff.
Yep.
The Kill Switch Engage, the All That Remains, the As I Lay Dying, that sort of stuff. And then we're not even touching on hardcore and that whole, because when I was playing in metal, that shit was coming up and it didn't have a name.
Right.
So, my band was a straight up metal band, no melodic vocals, no breakdowns, none of that shit. And we didn't even talk about Pantera, who's also one of the other biggest influences. And there's many others, Lamb of God, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, hardcore and metal were like wrapped up together. And I experienced that because I'd be playing these shows and I'm like, the fuck are these kids doing with all the dances and why do they all look the same? I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah,
you know? Oh, I hated it.
Thrash is where you really started to see more people like with the patches and whatnot, you know.
Yeah.
Not to mention crust punk kind of bled into that as well.
So, you know, I mean, we could take it further, but really that to me is kind of like the meat and potatoes in history. And even though I don't like them, I do know that like Pantera does need to be mentioned.
Yeah.
They started out as glam. Don't know if you knew that.
I didn't actually.
I don't know if you call it glam, more like hair.
Okay.
But yeah, they started out as a hair metal band.
I didn't
go
realize
look up
that.
pictures. It's pretty sweet.
Man.
Yeah, they're a huge influence. Maybe I'm more partial because I lived in Texas for so long, but in Texas, they are gods. Like literal gods. I
don't understand why, but that's cool.
So here's an example. So I worked at a music venue. I'm cleaning out the back. Phil Insamo comes in. He comes in fairly regularly. I'm not a Pantera fan. I don't really give a shit. So he's sitting there. Everyone's kind of leaving. He went to watch the last act or whatever. So I'm sitting there, and one of the guys I work with, who was a drummer, comes and sits next to him. And so they're having an exchange, and I shit you not, this is what happened. He gets up while Phil is still seated down, and he kisses him on the forehead and then goes and leaves. Shit you not. I watched it, and I'm like,
huh.
Okay, sure. And like, there was no exchange of words after it. It was like almost like, you know, you come to the Godfather's house, you kiss the ring, and then you leave. That's what it felt like.
That's
it was crazy.
fucking weird, man.
So yeah, the Texan in me cannot let this go without bringing up Pantera. Even though I personally do not like them, I've stated before that the Crow soundtrack Pantera track, which I don't even know the name of it, is my only Pantera song that I love. But yes, they're, you know, highly, you know, need to be brought up at least in the, I guess they're still considered 90s, but
yeah, they're technically in the new metal genre for sure. But like, you know, I didn't know about them being a hair band before that.
Yes. But I mean, you know, and this gets me going because I'm like, I know we stopped, but I'm like, fuck, there's just like so many other things that I want to go. And like, we didn't even talk about Lamb of God. We didn't even bring up like the Swedish metal aspect of things. Like, so.
This seemed too sidetracked.
No, that's okay.
No, sidetracked is good.
That's okay.
Rage, you see when Rage was asked not to swear on the BBC, Rage Against the Machine?
No, what?
They're doing Killing in the Name of.
And then they cut it off.
No. He gets to the...
After that, yes.
Yeah.
So after he says the "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me," he gets through like three
of
runs
those,
of it, and then they cut it off.
Oh,
they cut it off.
But what do you think? The nature of that song, and you're telling them what to do. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah,
exactly. No kidding. I mean,
but he's doing the bird. I mean, he's really into the "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me."
Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's so much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully the next time on part 2, we got a lot of part 2s coming up.
I know.
But in part 2 we'll be able to have we'll be able to go into more detail on kind of more 80s and 90s parts of metal, kind of more of what you guys know, and then maybe later on we might be able to go into like kind of the new, not new NU metal, but like the newer sorts of metal. So genres like what we've had on the show before, like stoner metal, groove metal, grind, sludge, gore grind, noisecore, slam, all that shit. We could go into all of it. So this might end up being a 3-part series. You never know.
Who knows? I can talk about it. It'd be a 5-part series. Absolutely.
So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much again, Ben, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your knowledge.
And insight.
Yes, and insight, especially when it came to like the newer, like, or older stuff, because I know with your type of music that's kind of something that you kind of draw some of the influences from, or at least it seems like. So Ben, I know that you perform music, but do you have anything new that's going to be coming out, or any way that you want to promote yourself? I know that you play at the Hawks quite often, and you do a very good job.
I have a SoundCloud page that is, I believe it's Wilcoast, WILCOAST, but it shows up as Ben Herendeen. I have a lot of demos on there.
Nice. What's and just out of curiosity, what's something that you're really proud of right now? What's a song that you you feel you have incredible songs, but what's one that you really feel proud of yourself on?
I have a recent instrumental that I've gotten really good feedback on that I feel like kind of travels. It's a bigger beat. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you again so much, Ben. And please check out his music. He really does a great job. If you ever get the chance to kind of see him, it's a rarity, but if you ever do get the chance to see him live, please stop by, say hi. He's a great guy. He's a good friend. I really appreciate having him.
Sweet.
So, with that being said, y'all,
Yep.
look out for each other and good night, salad dwellers. Bye! Good job.
As well ask men what they think of stone. War was always here. Before man was, war waited for him. The ultimate trade awaiting its ultimate practitioner. That is the way it was and will be.